Those aren't just red flags, those are red banners. And these people are too dangerous to really be free, and yet they do lurk among us. So how can you tell if somebody really is evil? Now, this is based off the book Psychopath by Dr. James Fallon, and I had the pleasure of working him for 4 years at the University of California, Irvine, doing neurology research. He's a very sweet and gentle man. So to my surprise, in the book he admits to having some psychopathic tendencies. What he says is we all have a little bit of that in us.
To them, you're just a freak. Like me.
It's what causes our intrusive thoughts. Just because somebody has some of these features that could mean they're evil doesn't necessarily mean they are, because it's a spectrum. And if you have a lot, there's a good probability that you could be evil. What does it mean to be evil? I'm not talking about supervillains, the type that you see on science fiction movies and shows. I'm talking about the ordinary guy, or at least he looks ordinary to everybody around him, but is actually very evil. Those aren't just red flags, those are red banners. And these people are too dangerous to really be free, and yet they do lurk among us. We might pass these people and not even think twice about who they are because they blend in. So how can you tell if somebody really is evil? Dr. James Fallon says that these deeply disturbed individuals who ultimately cannot control their innate aggression and show little regret or sympathy for their violent actions. They seem detached, impelled to action by forces out of their control. And he breaks it down to 4 main categories of what it means to be evil. Now, it's worth noting to know that there's a difference between being evil and being mean. That you have ill intent towards the person. It doesn't mean that you take action. Being mean to someone is only having thoughts of aggression towards them or words towards them. It doesn't necessarily mean taking action against them. Specifically, action that causes them harm. Being evil, on the other hand, means that you have malice towards someone else. So much so that you're willing to take action and cause physical harm towards somebody else. This is where bullies can easily cross the line. And we're going to talk about specific external cues that you could use to define and see if somebody is evil. These red flags can be seen from an outside view. However, there are certain behavioral aspects that you can only uncover if you ask people questions. And we're going to talk about specific questions in a bit. Now, the first red flag to tell if somebody's evil is to look at their history. Specifically, Dr. Fallon says that they have a history of hot-headedness, history of juvenile delinquency, and a criminal record. Now, not everybody goes around sharing their history, so you might have to dig a little deeper into each person to see if any of these apply to them. But you can find out if the person's hot-headed. And the only way you really can find out if someone's a hothead is to spend time with them. If you see that they get easily triggered, it's a huge red flag that they may be a hothead. And because of that, they might take action they regret. Violent actions that can cause you harm, simply by being a spectator. Now, you could test this by seeing how irritable somebody is if you remove a primary need. This includes seeing how they are when they're hungry, tired, hot, or thirsty. If they're without these primary needs, you could see how they could get easily triggered and how they react in those situations. The next way you could detect a red flag is to evaluate somebody's values. Dr. Fallon calls these interpersonal aspects. They include superficiality, grandiosity, and deceit. What that means is, if somebody only values external things and not anything deeper beyond that, it could be a red flag. If somebody's grandiose and they see themselves above all other people, it could be a sign that this is a red flag. And if they're constantly lying to other people, this is a huge red flag. And one of these on its own doesn't really mean much, but over time, all of these compound. And if it becomes a continuous habit, it may be a huge red flag. This person could be evil. Not because they're mean to other people, but because they see themselves above all others. They only value themselves and their own personal needs. A way you can kind of test this is to ask someone, what are they excited about? Usually, everybody has something they're excited about and looking forward to. Maybe it's a show they're looking forward to watching. Maybe it's something simple like the weekend. Most people have something, at least a tiny thing that they're excited about. Some hobby, something that drives them. Psychopathic people, however, don't have that same level of excitement. If someone doesn't have anything that they're excited about, it's a huge red flag on their mental health. Maybe they're just depressed, or maybe they're a psychopath. The third thing that Dr. Fallon says that can identify a psychopath are their affective factors. And this includes lack of remorse, lack of empathy, and refusal to accept responsibility for one's actions. This is the biggest clue to see if somebody's a psychopath. This is how psychopaths view the world. You want to hear how they respond to their mistakes and other people's mistakes. Do they have sympathy or empathy for that person? And most importantly, you want to see if they have moral conflict. Many of us will face a moral conflict at one time or another in our life. When it comes to psychopaths, they know what the clear decision is. They put aside everybody's needs except their own.
I want these people executed!
I want the same for you!
The way you can detect if someone doesn't have affective factors is to share a story with them. Specifically, a story about yourself where you were vulnerable. How does this person relate to you? Can they empathize with you? Can they relate to the pain that you felt? If not, it might be a huge red flag. If you see them making a mistake, see how they respond to it. Do they accept responsibility and change? Or do they blame others? And if they do blame others, do they wash their hands clean of any contribution to the problem? And this last one is one I kind of disagree with Dr. Fallon on. He says that the behavioral factors such as impulsivity, lack of goals, and unreliability contribute to someone being a psychopath. I don't entirely agree with this because not everybody has goals. Some people just live life and enjoy it. They don't even have short-term goals. They just enjoy their day by day. And sometimes that's living in the moment, not being a psychopath. But I think what he means more here is that psychopaths don't see how their actions affect the world. This is the inability to see the long-term consequences of your actions or inactions. Building a relationship with somebody, whether it be your family, friends, or just a coworker, means you have to take action. Psychopaths don't understand that necessity. They'll only take actions that serve their own needs, not build a relationship with other people. Now, very rarely do we have psychopaths that have self-actualization. That's the ultimate need that we have in life. Psychopaths have very little morality, they have high prejudice, and they're very unaccepting of facts. In addition, there's very little love, except to manipulate people. So if you see multiple factors of these in people that are red flags, you have to evaluate, is it just at the one end of the spectrum or at the high end of the spectrum? And if it sits in the high end of the spectrum, this person you're with or around may be evil. We can't always predict our waves of emotion, but we're able to control the strength of our mind by doing the exercises required. If you want to try a 10-day challenge to help work out these mental exercises, check out on the link in the bio. These exercises will help you build a strong emotional mind. So whenever you have a wave of sadness, anger, or fear, you know how to handle it and know how to diffuse it. What do you guys think? Are you around evil people? Can you detect the red flags of psychopaths? Let me know down in the comments. And until next time, guys, never give up on yourself.